Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025, and you're listening to Alex's News. The weather in Riverside today will be pleasant with a high of 74.3 degrees and a low of 52.7. Coming up on today's show, we'll examine the legal battle brewing between Harvard University and the Trump administration as the prestigious institution takes the unusual step of filing a lawsuit against the federal government. Then, we'll look at California's innovative efforts to make life-saving overdose-reversal medications more accessible and affordable for all residents across the state. This initiative could serve as a model for addressing the ongoing opioid crisis nationwide. We'll dive into the details of both these stories, including what's at stake and how they might impact communities across the country. That's all ahead on Alex's News. Good morning, viewers. In a major development in the world of higher education, Harvard University has taken legal action against the Trump administration over what's being called an unprecedented freeze of federal research grants. Joining us now with more details is our education correspondent, Ethan. Good morning, Ethan. What can you tell us about this lawsuit?
Good morning, Grace. Harvard University has indeed filed what could be a landmark lawsuit against the Trump administration, challenging the freeze of more than $2.2 billion in federal research grants. According to NPR, this legal action comes after Harvard refused to comply with a series of demands from the administration regarding campus policies, governance, and admissions procedures.
That's a staggering amount of money at stake. What exactly were these demands that Harvard refused to meet?
Well, as reported by the New York Post, the administration outlined these demands in an April 11th email. They included establishing merit-based hiring, ending diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, reforming programs with records of anti-Semitism, and increasing scrutiny of international applicants. KCRA, Channel 3 Sacramento reports that the administration also suggested screening international students for those, quote, hostile to American values, end quote, and even threatened to revoke Harvard's tax-exempt status and block international student enrollment.
So Harvard is standing its ground. What's their legal argument against these demands?
Harvard President Alan Garber has stated that the university won't comply with these demands, citing First Amendment rights and Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. According to Perplexity, Harvard's lawsuit alleges that the funding freeze is unconstitutional and beyond the government's authority. The university argues that the freeze violates its First Amendment rights by imposing viewpoint-based conditions on federal funding, which they see as an attempt to control academic programs.
Is there any precedent for this kind of funding freeze?
That's what makes this case so extraordinary, Grace. Legal experts cited by Perplexity note there is very limited legal precedent for presidential administrations unilaterally freezing university federal funding without formal violations of Title VI or following established administrative procedures. Under federal law, the Department of Education can only terminate funding to colleges for civil rights violations after following specific steps, making a formal finding of noncompliance, offering a hearing, notifying Congress, and then waiting 30 days before pulling aid.
So the administration may have jumped the gun on this one?
You could say they're putting the cart before the Harvard, Grace. Perplexity reports that the Trump administration bypassed these steps and moved quickly from demands directly to penalties, without the usual due process or formal findings by the Office for Civil Rights.
Who exactly is Harvard suing in this case?
According to Perplexity, the lawsuit names multiple federal agencies as defendants, including the Department of Education, DOJ, NASA, and others involved in the funding freeze. The New York Post specifically mentions Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Education Secretary Linda McMahon, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and Acting Administrator of the General Services Administration Stephen Ehikian among the defendants.
Is Harvard getting support from other institutions in this fight?
Absolutely. KCRA reports that several groups, including the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression and the American Council on Education, have voiced support for Harvard's stance. Princeton's president has characterized the administration's actions as a fundamental threat to academic freedom and the autonomy of research universities. This follows a similar lawsuit filed by the American Association of University Professors, as reported by NPR.
What's at stake beyond the money itself?
Harvard argues that the funding freeze will harm vital research in areas including health and environmental sciences, threatening ongoing research, employment contracts, graduate admissions, and academic programs. This case could set a precedent for how much control the federal government can exert over universities through funding mechanisms.
Thank you, Ethan, for that comprehensive report on what could be a defining legal battle for academic freedom. We'll certainly keep our viewers updated as this story develops. Good morning, viewers. In a major development for public health in California, the state has launched a program making naloxone, a life-saving medication that reverses opioid overdoses, available at deeply discounted prices directly to residents. Joining us to discuss this initiative is our health reporter, Chloe Bennett. Good morning, Chloe.
Good morning, Grace. This is indeed a significant step in California's battle against the opioid crisis. According to reporting from Cal Matters, Governor Gavin Newsom announced yesterday that all Californians can now purchase a 2-pack of generic naloxone nasal spray for just $24, which is roughly half the typical market price.
That's quite a reduction. What would consumers normally pay for this medication?
At regular pharmacies and online retailers, the same naloxone package typically costs between $45 and $70. As Governor Newsom put it, quote, life-saving medication shouldn't come with a life-altering price tag, end quote. He emphasized making naloxone affordable for all Californians, not just those who can easily afford it.
Can you explain what naloxone actually does for those who might not be familiar?
Absolutely. Naloxone is a medication that can rapidly reverse an opioid overdose. It works by blocking the effects of opioids in the brain, essentially restoring normal breathing in someone whose breathing has slowed or stopped due to an overdose of drugs like heroin, fentanyl, or prescription painkillers like oxycodone.
I see this as part of something called the CalRx initiative. What exactly is that?
The CalRx initiative is Governor Newsom's broader program aimed at lowering prescription drug costs across the board. LAS reports that while naloxone was previously available only to government organizations and businesses, this new program allows individual consumers to purchase it directly online through the state's CalRx Naloxone Access Initiative.
The timing seems critical given recent statistics. What's the current state of the opioid crisis in California?
You're right about the timing, Grace. According to Cal Matters, California saw over 8,900 opioid-related deaths last year, which represents a 13% increase from 2023. That's about 24 deaths per day across the state, primarily driven by opioids like heroin, fentanyl, and prescription painkillers.
That's truly alarming. How does this discount program fit into the state's overall response?
This is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. As Cal Matters reports, California has invested over $1 billion in fighting the opioid epidemic. The state runs both this new direct-to-consumer discount program and the existing naloxone distribution project, which provides free naloxone to eligible organizations. Since 2018, over 6 million naloxone kits have been distributed throughout California, resulting in approximately 355,000 overdose reversals.
That's quite an impact. How did the state manage to secure such a reduced price?
It's an interesting story. In 2024, California partnered with Amneal Pharmaceuticals following a $273 million multi-state settlement with the company over its failure to report suspicious opioid orders. This partnership has enabled the state to offer naloxone at this significantly reduced price.
Is California's approach unique compared to other states?
Absolutely. As of today, April 22, 2025, California's direct-to-consumer discount model stands out nationally. While many states rely on free distribution through harm reduction organizations or allow pharmacy access without prescriptions, California has created a unique combination of state-led manufacturing, price stabilization, and direct sales. The program has already reduced generic naloxone prices by 22% across the market and saved $2.6 million in its first 6 months.
Before we wrap up, is this naloxone initiative part of other CalRx efforts?
Yes, it's one of two major efforts. According to Cal Matters, the other is a project to manufacture generic insulins, though that initiative is currently behind schedule. The naloxone program could serve as a model for other states looking to improve public health outcomes through increased access to essential medications.
Well, that's certainly a dose of good news in the fight against the opioid epidemic. Thanks for that comprehensive report, Chloe. I'm sure many Californians will be relieved to know this life-saving medication is now more accessible.
My pleasure, Grace. When it comes to overdose prevention, California is clearly not taking a nasal spray approach to the problem.
Indeed, they're breathing new life into public health initiatives. Thanks again, Chloe. Okay, here are some other headlines. A chaotic scene unfolded at a legislative town hall meeting in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, hosted by the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee. During the event at Coeur d'Alene High School, resident Teresa Borenpole shouted from the audience. After she refused Sheriff Bob Norris's instruction to leave, plainclothes security personnel dragged her from the auditorium. Consequently, 6 men face charges. 4 men associated with the private security firm Lear Asset Management, Paul Truett, Russell Dunn, Christopher Berg, and Jesse Jonesa, are charged with misdemeanor battery, false imprisonment, and security violations. A 5th man from the firm, Alex Truett YV, faces security violation charges. A 6th man, Michael Keller, unaffiliated with the firm, is charged with misdemeanor battery. Following the incident, Lear Asset Management had its city security license revoked. Ms. Borenpole has filed a tort claim notice, signaling her intent to sue Kootenai County. Turning to Vatican City, speculation is underway regarding potential successors to Pope Francis. Key cardinals seen as contenders include Italian Secretary of State Pietro Parolin, known for his diplomatic experience despite some controversy, Luis Antonio Tagle from the Philippines, often called the Asian Francis, Peter Turkson from Ghana, who would be the first African pope, and American Cardinal Robert Prevost, who has extensive experience in Peru. Canadian Marc Ouellet and Dutchman Willem Ike are also mentioned. The selection will occur during a secret conclave in the Sistine Chapel, where cardinals vote until a 2/3 majority is reached, signaled by white smoke. In the Middle East, recent Israeli strikes have killed at least 14 Palestinians in Gaza, with other reports indicating a total of at least 25 deaths in separate incidents, including children. These strikes also destroyed heavy equipment, crucial for clearing rubble, and conducting rescue operations in the besieged territory. Amidst the escalating violence, a Hamas delegation is reportedly traveling to Egypt to discuss a potential truce. In U.S. politics, former President Donald Trump has made an unusual move in Arizona's 2026 gubernatorial race, issuing a dual endorsement for 2 Republican candidates who will face each other in the primary, Karen Taylor Robson and Representative Andy Biggs. Robson, a business executive who lost the 2022 primary to Kari Lake, and Biggs, a congressman and former House Freedom Caucus chair, are both positioning themselves as strong MAGA allies. This dual endorsement sets up a highly competitive primary, seen as a test of Trump's influence, with the winner likely facing incumbent Democrat Governor Katie Hobbs. And globally, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime warns that transnational organized crime groups based in East and Southeast Asia are expanding their sophisticated scam operations worldwide. These groups, known for running fake romance schemes, bogus investments, and illegal gambling operations from compounds in countries like Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar, are now setting up operations in Africa and Latin America. This expansion is seen as a response to increased law enforcement crackdowns in Asia and targets regions with weaker oversight. The UN report also highlights the human cost, including trafficked individuals forced to work in these scam centers. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King, with Claude Sonnet 3.7, Gemini Pro 2.5 Experimental, Gemini Flash 2.0, Perplexity Sonar Pro, and Google Cloud Text-to-Speech. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.